The thing about emergency stops at neutral stations is that they're never actually neutral. They're where deals happen that nobody wants traced, where species mix that don't usually mix, and where junior navigators like me get sent on errands that senior crew mysteriously can't handle themselves. Just get the medical supplies from the lower market, Captain Akafer had said, waving me toward the airlock like I wasn't being sent into the space equivalent of a back alley. In and out, Chen. Don't talk to anyone, don't buy anything weird, and for the love of entropy, don't get into trouble. Nocturne Station was built for species that preferred darkness, which meant the lighting was dim enough that I'd already stumbled twice navigating corridors that curved in ways that made no geometric sense. The lower markets were worse. Narrow passages with shops carved into the station's structure, selling everything from contraband tech to biological samples I definitely didn't want to identify. I found the medical supplier, a squat alien whose species I couldn't place, and secured our order with minimal conversation. The hard part was supposed to be done. Just had to navigate back to the docking bay, return to the wandering star, and resume the boring safety of deep space. Except the corridor I needed was blocked, not by debris or a locked door, but by a woman leaning against the wall with the kind of casual posture that suggested she owned the space and was graciously allowing others to exist in it temporarily. She was beautiful. That was the first thought, immediate and unhelpful. The second thought was that she definitely wasn't human, despite appearing close enough that my pattern recognition software needed a moment to identify the differences. Her skin had a faint luminescence in the dim lighting, like she was generating her own soft glow. Her eyes reflected light when she turned to look at me, a flash of something between silver and gold that made my hindbrain register predator. And her ears, they swept back from her skull in elegant points, easily 6 inches long, currently tilted forward with clear interest. Noctis, space vampire, the species that fed on bioelectric energy and had a reputation for being simultaneously dangerous and irresistibly attractive to pretty much everyone. She smiled at me, and my brain registered fangs. Not dramatically long, just enough to notice, just enough to trigger every survival instinct evolution had installed. "Nice evening," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made my spine tingle in ways that were definitely not safe for work. I should have said something smooth, something professional. "Excuse me, I need to get past" would have worked. "Good evening" would have been acceptable. Even awkward silence would have been better than what actually came out of my mouth. "You have a nice ass." The words hung in the air between us like a grenade I'd just thrown into a diplomatic negotiation. My brain, which had apparently left for vacation without informing me, caught up approximately 3 seconds too late. Horror flooded through me. I just complimented a Noctis predator's posterior in a dark corridor on a neutral station, where disappearing wouldn't even make the incident reports. She stared at me. Her ears went completely vertical, which I didn't know the meaning of but assumed was bad. Her expression was unreadable, those reflective eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made my knees weak. Then she threw her head back and laughed. Not a polite chuckle, not a mocking laugh. A genuine, delighted sound that echoed off the corridor walls and drew curious looks from passing aliens. "That," she said, still laughing, her ears tilting in what I would later learn was extreme amusement, "is the worst and most honest thing anyone has said to me in decades." "I am so sorry," I managed. "I don't know why I said that." I panicked. "You're very intimidating, not that your attractiveness is intimidating." "Wait, that's not better. I'm going to stop talking now." "Please don't." She pushed off the wall, moving closer with a grace that confirmed every predator warning my hindbrain was screaming. "I haven't been this entertained in years. What's your name, human with no filter?" "Felix Chen. Junior navigator on the Wandering Star. Cargo hauler, completely harmless. Please don't kill me." "I'm Vera." She extended a hand, and when I shook it, her skin was cool and smooth, and I felt something like a static charge where we touched. "And why would I kill you? You gave me a compliment. Crude, yes. Inappropriate, absolutely. But honest. You're not mad. Mad? Her ears tilted forward again, focusing on me. I'm delighted. Do you know how long it's been since someone said what they were actually thinking around me? Most species either run from noctis or try to manipulate us. You just blurted out exactly what was in your head. That's usually a problem for me. It's refreshing for me. She still hadn't released my hand. Have you eaten? There's a place nearby that serves food compatible with human digestion. Join me. I should get back to my ship. Should you, or are you just panicking again? She had a point. I was absolutely panicking. My heart was racing, my palms were sweating, and every instinct said I should run. But she was smiling at me, and her laugh had been genuine. And when was the last time someone found my anxiety-driven word vomit charming instead of concerning? One drink, I heard myself say. But if you're planning to eat me, I should warn you that I'm mostly anxiety and bad decisions, not very nutritious. She laughed again, and the sound made something warm bloom in my chest. I'll keep that in mind. Come on, Felix Chen, let's see what else you say when you panic. The establishment she led me to was called the Umbral, which seemed deliberately on brand for a Noctis hangout. The lighting was even dimmer than the corridors, but somehow my eyes adjusted quickly. Maybe something about the bioluminescent fixtures scattered around, maybe something about Vera radiating that soft glow. We sat at a corner table. She ordered something I couldn't pronounce. I ordered what the menu claimed was approximately coffee and hoped for the best. So, she said, leaning back in her chair with that same casual confidence. Tell me, Felix Chen, do you make a habit of complimenting strangers' physical attributes in dark corridors? No, God no, that was a first and hopefully a last. I buried my face in my hands. I'm normally much better at not saying things. What happened to your filter? You happened to my filter. I gestured vaguely at all of her. You're extremely attractive and also terrifying, and my brain just short-circuited. Terrifying how? You're Noctis. You feed on bioelectric energy. You can mesmerize prey. You're basically designed to be irresistible and dangerous. And you find that terrifying. I find everything terrifying. I have generalized anxiety disorder and a tendency to catastrophize. Meeting a beautiful space vampire in a dark corridor hit about 15 different panic triggers simultaneously. Her ears did something complex, tilting and rotating in a pattern I couldn't interpret. You called me beautiful. I said you had a nice ass first, so the beautiful thing seems less embarrassing by comparison. She laughed again, and I was starting to really enjoy that sound. You're genuine, painfully, awkwardly genuine. Do you know how rare that is? Being awkward, pretty common actually. Being honest. Most people lie constantly. Little lies, big lies, lies to themselves. Even when talking to someone like me, they calculate what to say, how to appear, what might manipulate the situation in their favor. She leaned forward, her luminous eyes catching the dim light. You just say what you're thinking. No calculation, no agenda. That's usually a social liability. Among Noctis, it's attractive. Her hand crossed the table, fingers brushing mine. We value directness, honesty. Your panic-induced compliment was crude, but it was real. You looked at me and said exactly what you were thinking. That's refreshing. The drinks arrived. Mine was indeed approximately coffee, in the way that a swimming pool is approximately the ocean. I drank it anyway, needing something to do with my hands. Tell me about your species, I said, then immediately regretted it. Wait, that's probably rude. You don't have to educate me about your culture. I don't mind. What do you want to know? Are you actually vampires, like the Earth mythology? Close enough. We feed on bioelectric energy, the electromagnetic fields generated by living nervous systems. For most species, it's not harmful, just tiring, like donating blood but less clinical. Does it hurt? No. Most describe it as pleasurable, actually, intimate. Her eyes met mine and I felt that static charge again. Would you like to try? No, the word came out too loud, too panicked. I mean, maybe, I don't know. That seems like a very intense thing for a first date. Is this a date? I didn't mean to imply this is a date. She smiled, showing those delicate fangs. You're adorable when you panic. I'm adorable never. I'm anxious and awkward, and I say the wrong thing constantly. Yes, it's charming. She sipped her drink. Tell me about you, Felix Chen. What brings a cargo hauler to Nocturne Station? So I told her. About the wandering star, about life as a junior navigator, about the boredom of deep space broken up by occasional terror when something went wrong. I told her about Earth, about my family, about how I ended up in space because I was running from anxiety that followed me anyway. She told me about Nocti's culture, about being 300 years old and watching civilizations rise and fall, about how her species valued honesty because living so long taught you to spot deception instantly, about how lonely immortality became when everyone around you was calculating their next move. You're not calculating, she said eventually. You're just being, responding, saying what comes to mind. Is that really so rare? Extremely. Her hand covered mine on the table. Most people who meet Noctis either want something from us or are terrified of us. You're terrified, yes, but you're still here, still talking, still saying ridiculous things that make me laugh. I said you had a nice ass. You did, do you still think so? Heat flooded my face. I'm going to plead the Fifth Amendment. Is that a human thing? It's a right to not incriminate myself, though I'm not sure how much it applies to compliments. She stood, pulling me up with her. Come on, I want to show you something. Is it your place? Because I should warn you, I'm not emotionally prepared for that level of intimacy. It's a viewing gallery, completely public. Relax, Felix Chen. But her ears were tilted in that amused position, and her smile suggested she found my panic endearing rather than off-putting. As we left the umbral, I realized something that should have been obvious. I was on a date with a 300-year-old space vampire who found my anxiety cute. This was either the best or worst decision I'd ever made, and I wouldn't know which until it was far too late to back out. The viewing gallery was one of those spaces that made you forget you were on a station. Massive transparent panels looked out onto the void, but closer, contained in enormous tanks built into the walls, bioluminescent organisms created living artwork. They pulsed and flowed in patterns that seemed both random and purposeful, painting the gallery in shifting blues and greens. This is beautiful, I said, then immediately added, but not as beautiful as, wait, that's cheesy. I'm sorry. I should stop. Vera laughed, her hand still holding mine. We'd been holding hands since leaving the umbral, and I'd been too panicked to mention it in case mentioning it made her stop. Sincerity makes cheese forgivable. Does it make awkwardness forgivable? I find your awkwardness attractive, Felix. She pulled me closer to one of the tanks, where creatures that looked like jellyfish made of light were performing some kind of coordinated dance. Most people become more guarded around Noctis. You somehow become less guarded. Everything you think appears on your face or comes out of your mouth. That's not an attractive quality. That's a social liability. For your species, perhaps. For mine, it's intoxicating. She turned to face me, her back to the tank, bioluminescent light playing across her features. Do you know what it's like to live for centuries surrounded by liars? Oh, not malicious lies always. Social lies, protective lies, comfortable lies, but lies nonetheless. Everyone calculating what to say to get what they want. And I just say whatever pops into my head. Exactly. When I asked if you found me terrifying, you said yes and then explained exactly why. No deflection, no flattery, just honesty. Her hand came up to touch my face, cool against my skin. It's been so long since someone was just honest, even about stupid things, especially about stupid things. I'm exceptionally good at stupid honesty. I've noticed. Her thumb brushed my cheek. Tell me what you're thinking right now. My brain offered several options. Something smooth, something clever, something that wouldn't make me sound like a complete disaster. But her eyes were locked on mine, and I could feel that static charge where she touched me, and apparently my mouth had completely bypassed my brain's approval process. I'm thinking that your ears are really attractive, and I want to know if they're sensitive, and also I'm terrified because I've known you for 2 hours, and I'm already thinking about kissing you, which seems fast. But also you're 300 years old, so maybe 2 hours is nothing to you. And I don't know the protocol for dating space vampires, and I'm spiraling again, aren't I? She blinked. Her ears did that vertical thing again. Then she smiled so wide I could see those delicate fangs clearly. You want to kiss me? I want a lot of things. Most of them involve you. All of them terrify me. And the ears. They're extremely attractive. The way they move when you react to things. It's like a whole secondary expression system, and I keep trying to figure out what each position means. They are sensitive. She took my hand and guided it up to one of those elegant points. Touch. I did, gently running my fingers along the elongated curve. The texture was similar to skin but smoother, warmer than I expected. She closed her eyes and a small sound escaped her throat. Oh, I said intelligently, you like that. Very much. Her eyes opened, and they were definitely more silver now than gold. Ears are intimate for nocties. Touching them casually is forward. Should I stop? Did I ask you to stop? I continued exploring, tracing the point, following the curve down to where it joined her skull. Her breathing had changed, become deeper, and when I touched the base of her ear, she shivered. Felix. My name sounded different in her voice, harmonics I couldn't quite identify. Yeah. I'm going to kiss you now. If that's not acceptable, say so immediately. That's acceptable. That's very acceptable. Please kiss me before I say something else stupid and ruin the moment. She leaned in, and kissing her was electric, literally. That same static charge I'd felt earlier intensified where our lips met, spreading through my nervous system like fire that didn't burn. Her hand cupped the back of my head, careful despite clear strength, and I stopped thinking about anything except the way she tasted like ozone and something sweet I couldn't identify. When we broke apart, I was breathing hard and probably looked completely wrecked. I struggled for words, is feeding like that. Better, she said, and her smile was dangerous. Much better. Oh God. Overwhelmed. Completely. My brain is currently offline. I have no intelligent thoughts, just static and the memory of kissing you. Good. She took my hand again, leading me to a bench facing the tanks. We sat and she kept her arm around me, her cool temperature pleasant against my overheated skin. Tell me about Earth. I've never been to human homeworld. So I told her, because apparently my mouth would not stop producing words. About oceans and mountains, cities and forests. But generally, I thought about lying, about deflecting, but her eyes were on mine and she'd made it clear she valued honesty. Yeah, generally, anxiety is kind of like low-grade pain all the time. Your brain telling you everything is wrong even when it isn't. That sounds exhausting. It is, but you manage, find things that help, people who make it easier. Am I making it easier or worse? Both. You're terrifying, but also the first person in months who's made me feel like maybe being honest about things isn't a character flaw. She kissed my forehead, gentle. Your honesty is your best quality, Felix Chen. We stayed in the gallery for hours, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about other species she'd encountered, civilizations that had risen and fallen during her lifetime. I told her about the mundane details of cargo hauling, the small dramas of ship life, the boredom of deep space. Eventually, she asked the question I'd been dreading. How long is your ship here? We leave tomorrow morning. Early. Like painfully early. Her ears drooped slightly, which I'd learned meant disappointment. One night, I could extend my shore leave, claim I need to verify the medical supplies or something. Would you, for me? I do a lot of things for you, apparently, including embarrassing myself in corridors and admitting I have anxiety and letting you kiss me in public. Those don't seem like hardships. They're terrifying. but I'm doing them anyway. I took a breath. Can I ask you something? Anything. The feeding thing, the bioelectric energy, what's it actually like? Not the romantic version, the real version. She considered this, her ears tilting back in thought. It's intimate. More intimate than sex sometimes because you're sharing something fundamental. I would touch you, usually here, she indicated her palm, and here, the base of her neck, and I would draw, just a little, just enough. You would feel. It's hard to describe to someone who hasn't experienced it. Try. Pleasure first. Not sexual necessarily, though it can be. More like every nerve lighting up at once. Then a sense of connection, like for a moment we're sharing the same bioelectric field. And after, exhaustion. The pleasant kind, like after good exercise. You'd sleep deeply and wake refreshed. And for you, nourishment, yes. But also connection. Knowing someone trusts you enough to be vulnerable, tasting their emotions, their essence. It's why consent is absolute in Nocti's culture. Taking without permission is the worst crime we recognize. Have you? I paused. Is that a rude question? Have I fed from many people? Yes. I'm 300 years old, but it's been a long time since I wanted to feed from someone for more than sustenance. And now? Now I'm sitting with a human who complimented my ass and can't stop being honest, and I very much want to feed from you. But I won't. Not until you're ready. Not until you want it for the right reasons. What are the right reasons? Trust, curiosity, desire, not fear, not obligation, not thinking you have to because I want to. She squeezed my hand. I can wait, Felix. I've waited centuries for many things. I can wait until you're ready. We left the gallery eventually, and she walked me back toward the docking bays. At the entrance to the corridor leading to my ship, she stopped. Tomorrow, she asked. I'll extend my leave, figure something out. I'm not ready for this to be over. Good. She kissed me again, brief and sweet. Sleep well, Felix Chen. Dream of nice asses and inappropriate compliments. I'll never live that down, will I? Never, she confirmed cheerfully. I made it back to the Wandering Star in a daze. Found Rodriguez, our engineer, doing late-night maintenance in the engine bay. You look thoroughly kissed, she observed without looking up from her work. Is it that obvious? Your hair is a mess and you're smiling like an idiot. What happened? I met someone, a Noctis woman. I said something really stupid and she laughed and we spent the evening together and I need to extend my shore leave. Rodriguez straightened, looking at me seriously. You know what Noctis are, right? What they do. I know, and I'm terrified. But also she's amazing and honest and she laughs at my anxiety instead of being scared off by it. You gonna be careful? Probably not, but I'm going to try to be honest. She smiled. Good enough. I'll tell the captain you need another day to verify the medical supplies. He'll be suspicious, but he'll allow it. Thanks, Rodriguez. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you come back in one piece and not completely drained. I went to my bunk, lay down, and stared at the ceiling. My datapad buzzed with a message from an unknown contact. Sweet dreams, Felix. Your panic is adorable. I smiled like the idiot Rodriguez had called me and fell asleep thinking about silver eyes and elegant ears, and the way honesty could bridge the gap between species that should have been impossible. Captain Akafer was suspicious, but Rodriguez had done her job well. I got my extended shore leave with minimal interrogation, though the captain's final words were, "Don't get turned into a Noctis snack, Chen. Paperwork is hell when crew members get drained." I'll be careful, Captain. You're the least careful person on this ship. Just be careful adjacent. Fair assessment. I met Vera at the Umbral again, and this time she was waiting outside, leaning against the wall in a way that made several passing aliens stop and stare. She'd changed clothes, darker, somehow both more and less revealing, and I had to physically stop myself from staring. "You're doing it again," she said, amused. "Doing what?" "Looking at me like your brain has stopped working." "My brain has definitely stopped working. You're extremely attractive and I don't have the filter to pretend otherwise." "Good." She pushed off the wall, taking my hand. "I want to show you something different today. The upper markets. Where Noctis trade. Trade what? Art, information, beauty, things that matter more than cargo. The upper markets were nothing like the lower ones. Instead of cramped corridors and suspicious vendors, these were open spaces with high ceilings that somehow existed on a space station. Gallery-like shops displayed paintings that moved, sculptures made of solidified light, music that played from crystals. "Your species does this?" I asked, watching a piece that seemed to be constantly creating and destroying itself in flowing patterns. "We have a long time to develop skills. Art is how we mark the passage of centuries." She guided me to a shop where an elderly Noctis, I could tell by the elaborate ear decorations, sat surrounded by instruments I didn't recognize. Vera spoke to him in their language, all harmonics and flowing syllables. He responded, his ears tilting in what seemed like amusement, then produced something that looked like a cross between a flute and a spiral shell. "He wants you to try," Vera translated. "I don't know how to play that. Just blow, it will find your breath and make something from it." I tried, feeling ridiculous. The sound that emerged was surprisingly pleasant, not music exactly, but not random either. Like my breath was being translated into something meaningful. The elderly Noctis said something, and Vera laughed. "He says you play like someone who thinks too much, which is accurate. What did you tell him about me? That you're human, honest to a fault, and you complimented my ass in a corridor. You told him that. It's a good story." He appreciated the honesty of it. She paid for something, I didn't see what, and we left the shop. Among Noctis, that story would be considered romantically appealing. You saw what you wanted and said so, without calculation. That's appealing. Very. Most courtship among longer-lived species becomes elaborate games. Centuries of accumulated social strategies, everyone trying to appear sophisticated and mysterious. You had no strategy. You panicked and blurted out exactly what you were thinking. It's refreshingly direct. We spent the day exploring, and I kept saying things without meaning to. When she showed me a piece of art that made my chest ache, I told her it reminded me of loneliness. When she demonstrated a Noctis fighting form in a training area, I said she moved like water and violence had a baby. She laughed at everything, her ears in constant motion with amusement. "You're good at this," I observed during a meal at a restaurant that served food compatible with both our biologies. "Good at what?" "Not making me feel like my anxiety is a burden. Most people get tired of the constant reassurance, the awkward comments, the panic spirals." Her expression softened. "Felix, you're not a burden. You're honest about your internal state, which is rare and valuable. Your anxiety isn't something I'm tolerating, it's part of how you process the world. That's a generous interpretation. It's an accurate one." She reached across the table, taking my hand. "I've met humans before. Many are very good at projecting confidence they don't feel. You don't do that. Everything you feel is right there, visible. It's—" She searched for the word real, in a way most people aren't. Real in the sense of disaster, maybe. Real in the sense of genuine. Her thumb traced patterns on my palm, and I felt that static charge again. "I don't want a performance, Felix. I've seen centuries of performances. I want this. Someone who says what they think even when it's awkward. Someone who asks questions instead of pretending to understand. Someone whose fear doesn't stop them from being present. My fear doesn't stop me because I'm too anxious to know when to quit. Or because you're braver than you think." We went back to her quarters eventually, a small space carved into the station structure, decorated with items I assumed held meaning she'd accumulated over centuries. Art on the walls, instruments I didn't recognize, books in languages I couldn't read. "This is home?" I asked. "One of many. I keep spaces in several stations." She settled onto a low couch, patting the space beside her. "I move around, never stay anywhere too long. Lonely? Sometimes, but solitude is different from loneliness." She looked at me. "Though I've been more lonely than solitary lately." I sat beside her close enough that our legs touched. "Because everyone's performing. Because everyone's calculating. Even when they're being kind, there's always the question, what do they want? What are they trying to get? She turned to face me. You want things too, I can sense that. But you're not hiding it, not manipulating toward it, you just exist alongside your wants. Is that good? It's intoxicating. Her hand came up to touch my face. Ask me. Ask you what? What you've been thinking about since last night, the feeding, ask me. My heart rate spiked. I'm scared. I know, ask anyway. What would it feel like if we did it, if I let you? Show you. She took my hand, placed it against the side of her neck, over where her pulse would be if Noctis had heartbeats like humans. Then she placed her hand against my neck, mirror image. This is how we'd start. Connection point to connection point. I would draw very gently, just enough for you to feel. And it wouldn't hurt. It would feel like electricity, pleasant electricity, like every nerve waking up at once. Her eyes met mine. Do you trust me? Probably more than I should. That's not an answer. Yes, I trust you, but I'm still terrified. Terrified of the feeding or terrified of the intimacy. That stopped me. The intimacy, definitely the intimacy. The feeding is scary, but the idea of being that vulnerable with someone is. I trailed off. Is what? Is everything I want and everything that scares me about relationships in general, being seen completely. Having someone that close to your fundamental self. What if you don't like what you find? Her ears tilted forward, fully focused on me. Felix, I've been sensing your bioelectric field since we met. I already know what you are fundamentally. Anxious, yes, but also kind, curious. Brave in ways you don't recognize, self-deprecating to a fault. Attracted to me enough that your field spikes every time I touch you. She smiled. I like what I've found, very much. You can sense all that. Noctis are empaths. It's how we hunt, how we navigate social situations, how we survive. Your emotions are clear to me, which is why I know you're not ready yet. I want to be ready. Wanting to be ready and being ready are different things. She kissed me gently. I can wait. I told you that. When you're ready, truly ready, not thinking you should be ready, we'll try. Until then, this is enough. Just kissing, just existing together, talking, learning each other. All the things humans do when dating, I assume. You've never dated a human before. I've never dated anyone before, not like this. Her ears drooped slightly. Noctis relationships tend to be practical. Compatible feeding partners, shared interests, companionship for however long it lasts. But this nervous human who can't stop being honest, this is new. Good new or concerning new. Terrifying new, which seems appropriate since you're terrified too. We spent the evening just talking. She told me about other stations, other worlds, other species she'd encountered over 3 centuries. I told her about my family, about growing up anxious, about the relief of space where at least your fears were about concrete things like hull breaches instead of abstract things like social rejection. Your family knows you're anxious. She asked. They know. They're supportive in that way where they love you but don't really understand. Lots of just relax and don't worry so much advice that doesn't actually help. Do they know you're on a station talking to a Noctis woman who could drain you? God, no, they'd have several collective heart attacks. I paused. Do you have family? Not living. Noctis don't breed often. Long lifespans mean low birth rates. My parents have been dead for a century. No siblings, it's just me. That sounds lonely. It is, but you get used to it. Centuries alone teach you to be comfortable with solitude. She looked at me. Though I'm realizing I might have gotten too comfortable, forgotten what connection feels like. And now there's an anxious human who won't leave my thoughts, who says ridiculous things and means all of them, who looks at me like I'm simultaneously the scariest and most attractive thing he's ever seen. She smiled. It's disruptive. Sorry for disrupting your solitude. Don't be. Disruption is good, keeps you from calcifying. She pulled me closer. Stay tonight, just sleep, nothing else. I want to fall asleep next to someone who doesn't make me feel alone. That's the saddest and sweetest thing anyone's ever said to me. Is that a yes? That's absolutely a yes. We arranged ourselves on her couch, too small for comfortable sleeping, but neither of us complained. Her cool temperature was pleasant, her presence solid and real. I fell asleep listening to her breathe and feeling her hand in my hair. When I woke, early station morning, she was watching me with those silver gold eyes. "You snore," she said. "I warned you I was mostly anxiety and bad decisions. You also smile in your sleep. I didn't expect that." "What did you expect?" "Nightmares, maybe, tension, but you looked peaceful." Her hand traced my jaw. "What were you dreaming about?" "You, us, this, nice things that terrify me. Everything terrifies you." "Yeah, but I'm here anyway." She kissed me, morning slow and sweet. "You're braver than you know, Felix Chen." I kissed her back and tried to believe her. The Wandering Star's departure schedule caught up with me faster than I wanted. Captain Akaffer sent a message. "Chen, get your ass back here in 3 hours or you're walking home." I showed Vera the message, sitting in her quarters, dreading what came next. "You have to go," she said, and her ears drooped. "I don't want to, but you have to. Obligations, responsibilities, life beyond this station. Life that feels less important than this conversation." She smiled, sad. "You're sweet and ridiculous, and you have a job that doesn't involve a space vampire who found you charming." Found past tense. Finds present continuous will find future tense. She took my hands. "But you have to go, Felix." I should have agreed, should have been practical. Should have said goodbye gracefully and boarded the ship and moved on with my life. Instead, I panicked. "I don't want to, this is stupid. I've known you 3 days and I stopped." "You're what?" "I'm falling for you." Which is absurd and irrational and completely inappropriate given the timeline, but it's happening anyway and leaving feels wrong. Her ears went vertical, that confusion surprise position. "You're falling for me." "Yes. And before you say it, I know it's too fast. I know I'm probably just attracted and calling it something deeper. I know you've lived 300 years and I'm a blip, but also I really, really don't want to leave." "Felix." "I know. I know I'm being ridiculous. I'll go, I'll board the ship, I'll try to forget this happened." I stood, pulling away. "Thank you for not killing me when I complimented your ass, and for laughing, and for everything else." I made it to the door before she spoke. "What if I don't want you to forget?" I turned. She was standing now, her expression serious, her ears tilted forward in focus. "What? What if I've also been falling? What if 3 days with someone honest has meant more than decades of performing for others?" She crossed the distance between us. "What if I'm also panicking, but in the opposite direction? Panicking that you'll leave and I'll go back to centuries of loneliness with only the memory of a human who said what he thought." "Are you serious?" Painfully, terrifyingly. Her hands cupped my face. "I'm 300 years old, Felix. I've had relationships, partners, connections. None of them felt like this, like finding something I didn't know I'd been looking for. So what do we do?" "I don't know. You have obligations. I have a life here. Long distance doesn't work when the distances are measured in light years." We stood there, neither wanting to let go, neither knowing how to make this work. My datapad buzzed. "Rodriguez, Chen, seriously, get your ass to the ship or I'm telling the captain you're having a crisis." "I have to go," I said miserably. "I know." I kissed her, trying to memorize everything, her taste, her cool skin, the way her ears wrapped partially around my head. When we broke apart, I was crying and not caring that I was crying. "I'm sorry," I said, "for being emotional, for making this harder. Don't be sorry for feeling things." She wiped tears from my face. "Go, do your job. Live your life." I left, walked to the docking bay in a daze, boarded the Wandering Star with 5 minutes to spare before undocking, made it to the navigation bay and strapped in for departure. Rodriguez appeared beside me as the ship disconnected from the station. "You look terrible." I left her. The Noctis woman. Vera, I left Vera. And it was the wrong choice, but I made it anyway because I'm a coward. "You're not a coward, Chen. I'm leaving someone I care about because I'm too scared to figure out how to make it work." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "You going to regret leaving?" The question hit like a punch. "Yes. Absolutely yes. every day for probably the rest of my life. Then why are you on this ship? Because that's the plan, because I have a job, because long-distance relationships across space are impossible, because you're scared. Yes, and you're going to regret it, yes. Then what the hell are you doing here? She pulled out her datapad. We have an emergency shuttle for medical evacuations and critical supply runs. You could take it back to the station. Claim you forgot something essential. The captain would never believe that. The captain is tired and wants this shipment delivered on time. He'll yell at you later, but if I authorize the shuttle for a critical personnel issue, he'll deal with it. She started typing. So, are you going back, or are you going to sit here and regret it for the next 3 decades? I stared at her. Why are you helping me? Because I'm old and I've made the safe choice enough times to know it's usually the wrong one. Also because you've been moping for 3 days and it's exhausting. She handed me the datapad showing shuttle authorization. Go, be reckless, figure your shit out. I went. The shuttle was designed for short hops, not comfortable rides. I piloted it back to Nocturne Station, my hands shaking, my brain screaming that this was stupid and impulsive and perfect. I found her in the same corridor where we'd met. She was standing there, staring at nothing, her ears drooping in a way that broke my heart. Vera. She turned, and her expression cycled through surprise to hope to something warm. You came back. I panicked. I left because I was scared, and that was stupid, and I'm still scared, but I'm more scared of never seeing you again. The words tumbled out. Also, you still have a really nice ass, and I think I'm in love with you, and I have no idea what I'm doing. She closed the distance between us, pulling me into a kiss that felt like coming home. When we broke apart, she was crying too. You came back, she repeated. Nobody comes back. I'm an idiot. Yes, she agreed. But you're an honest idiot. So what do we do now? I don't know, figure it out as we go. She took my hand. I can travel, visit stations along your cargo routes, stay for however long I can. It won't be perfect. Nothing's perfect, but this feels right. It terrifies me. Me too, but I'm here anyway. She laughed, that same delighted sound from our first meeting. You came back. You actually came back. Did you doubt I would? Everyone doubts, it's safer to doubt. She pulled me toward her quarters. But you came back, so maybe doubt is overrated. In her quarters, she sat me down, her expression serious. Felix, if we're doing this, actually trying this, there's something I need actually. What? I want to feed from you, not because I need the energy, because I want the connection. Want to actually feel what you feel, not just sense it. Her hands took mine. But only if you're ready, truly ready, not thinking you should be. I thought about it. About trust, about vulnerability, about choosing intimacy despite fear. I'm terrified, I know, but I trust you. And I want this, want to be that close to you, even if it scares me. Her smile was beautiful and terrifying. Then let's try. She positioned us carefully, sitting facing each other, her hands on my neck and chest, mine on her arms. Tell me if it's too much, I'll stop immediately. Okay, ready? No, but yes. Do it before I overthink myself out of it. She leaned in, her forehead touching mine, and began to draw. The sensation was electric, just like she described. Every nerve lighting up at once, pleasure that wasn't sexual but was somehow more intimate. I could feel her presence in my bioelectric field, feel the boundaries between us blur. Her emotions bled into mine, centuries of loneliness, recent hope, fear of connection, desire for it anyway. And she could feel me. My anxiety, yes, but also my affection, my attraction, my genuine care for this ancient predator who laughed at my panic. It lasted maybe 30 seconds but felt longer. When she pulled back, I was boneless, exhausted in the best way. I couldn't find words. Yes, she agreed, looking equally affected. I fell asleep in her arms, deeply and completely, feeling more at peace than I had in years. When I woke hours later, she was watching me again. You came back, she said softly. I did, and I'll keep coming back, however we make this work. Promise. I promise. You're stuck with the anxious human who complimented your ass. She laughed. I can live with that, for centuries even. Over the following weeks, we figured it out. I negotiated with Captain Akafer, extended shore leaves at stations Vera frequented. She started traveling on the Wandering Star sometimes, occupying the small guest quarters that nobody used. The crew was wary at first, but Vera had a way of charming people when she wanted to. Rodriguez loved her. The captain tolerated her. Everyone else fell somewhere in between. It wasn't perfect. Long separations were hard. Cultural differences created misunderstandings. My anxiety didn't magically disappear just because I was in a relationship with someone who accepted it. But it worked. We made it work. Because I'd panicked in a corridor and said something ridiculous, and she'd laughed instead of killing me, and somehow that had been enough to build something real on. 6 months in, Rodriguez found me in the navigation bay. "So," she said, "that Noctis woman, Vera, right, you going to keep doing this, the long-distance thing?" "Yeah, why?" "Because you're different now, less anxious, more present. Whatever she did, it's good for you. She didn't do anything, she just accepts me, all the messy, awkward parts." "Then don't screw it up, Chen. I'll try not to." A year in, Vera told me she loved me. We were in her quarters on Nocturne Station, and she said it casually, like it wasn't the most important thing anyone had ever said to me. "You love me?" I asked. "Is that surprising? You came back. You keep coming back. You say ridiculous things and mean all of them. You're the most genuine person I've met in 3 centuries. She smiled. "Of course I love you. I love you too. I've loved you since you laughed instead of killing me. Best panic response you've ever had. Definitely the best." Years later, I'm still making runs on the Wandering Star, still meeting Vera at stations across known space, still saying awkward things that make her laugh. We're figuring it out, this relationship between an anxious human and a centuries-old predator. It started with the worst compliment ever delivered in a dark corridor. It continues with honesty, even when honesty is uncomfortable. It works because we chose each other, keep choosing each other, will probably keep choosing each other for as long as my human lifespan allows. And yes, she still has a nice ass. I tell her regularly. She still laughs every time. Some things never get old, not even after centuries.